Hello and welcome to the Route 1 show. We're taking a look at Huddersfield Town now, and I'm delighted to say joining us on the show from the Huddersfield Hub is Steve Browne. Steve, how are we doing, mate?
Not bad. How's yourself?
Yeah, very well, thank you. I did get a message from you over the weekend after the Huddersfield Town Coventry game. You weren't best pleased. They lost 2-0. Didn't sound like a great performance. What did you make of it, mate?
The first half performance was adequate. That's literally it. The standard of adequate. The second half performance was just pathetic. There's no other word. Like there was no forward movement. Sorry, there was no tactical difference in our play. Nobody seemed to be driving the team to get goals back. So yeah, just a very deflated performance, to be honest. And Coventry didn't have to work hard for their 3 points. And it's just a very disappointing sort of result because, they've not been on a great run themselves, hadn't won in 6 games. So it was overall, a very disappointing display, to be honest, and not good enough, just not good enough.
Yeah, because like you referenced, and we picked this out last week as a game that Huddersfield could go into it with confidence and try and get the 3 points, really, or at least get a point. But it doesn't sound as if much has happened in the game. I mean, looking at the analysis from it, it seems that pretty clueless in attack, really. Even though you've signed all these attacking players, but I don't think we've seen much of them so far, have we?
Yeah, well, Knockout didn't play because supposedly he's still recovering from his injury. Disappointing, but what can you do? Waghorn, of course, couldn't play because he's on loan from Coventry, so that ruled him out straight away. And then, the other attacking threats that we had, Canberra came on, but again, he swapped him. He took Rhodes off and put Canberra on. It just doesn't do any difference. There's no difference there. What's the point in doing that? You're taking probably a better striker off and putting a less lethal one on. So, I wouldn't mind if Canberra came on for a centre defensive midfielder or, change the formation and you take a full back off and a wing back. And also, I know we play with 3 at the centre in the centre back position, but that don't mean to say that you can sit back for 40 minutes and just think, oh, it's all right, we don't need to. A chance will come, one chance. But no chances came. The keeper didn't have to make a save. And that's why it's just disappointing, because if he thinks that he can go into the games that are coming up after these next 4 against the better sides in the division, and he thinks we're going to create more chances when, against those sort of sides, then he's living in cloud cuckoo land. The also thing is, he came after the game and he said it was a superb performance. Well, what? Show me a superb performance when we've won 3-1 or 3-0 or something, but not after a 2-0 defeat. How can that be a superb performance? I'm genuinely baffled. And then he comes out and he said, "We've had a great week at training." What a week of training we've had. We've had the best week of training or best day of training since I've been here. Oh, great, brilliant. That's in front of no fans, doesn't mean anything. And when we come to Saturday, we look like we don't really know what we're doing, and we've got no attacking threat. But it's all right. We're a superb performance, so don't matter, does it? I don't get the bloke. I just don't get him. I wanted him to succeed. I wasn't convinced when we appointed him. But as the weeks go by, his comments just have no narrative to what we're doing on the pitch or where we're going as a football club.
Yeah, there was one thing that I picked out. Full disclosure, I'm a Leeds United fan. Apologies, any Huddersfield Town fans watching. Yeah, but I saw some
Town fans. Boo him.
I'll get some sound effects put in after. But there was something that struck me when I was reading some of Fotheringham's comments. And one of them, as a Leeds United fan, it sent shivers down my spine. And it was when he talked about them having clarity. And he says that Huddersfield Town have clarity in what they're trying to do now. Jesse Marsh, Leeds manager, clarity is one of his buzzwords, and we've not really seen much clarity in his entire reign, to be perfectly honest. And when I saw that, I thought, oh, is he out of that school where is it just kind of lip service a bit, or it borders on delusion, doesn't it? When you hear comments like that, but then you see the performances.
Some of these managers, right? They have buzzwords, don't they? They have when maybe they're not the best managers, in the league, or best managers that the clubs had in recent years. They seem to have these buzzwords to make them seem more tactically aware and better than what they are. Clarity, that them sort of words come into effect, but there ain't no clarity, because how can 2,000 fans go away to Coventry at the weekend, or whatever they were? There were 2,000, maybe 3,000 that went, and all be wrong when they come back and say it was an adequate first half performance and a terrible second half performance. But he comes out after the game and says it was all a superb performance. How can they be wrong? I don't. I sat and watched the game at home, and I certainly didn't have any clarity. And I watched it on quite a nice TV screen. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it were HD plus or anything, but there certainly were any clarity in from what I could see. No. So I'm just hoping and praying that either they have a change of heart and say, look, the crazy experiment of having him in place has now ended, and we go and get somebody like Chris Wilder. That'll never happen. Or he somehow pulls off the miracle of the century and keeps us up, because I don't see it happening.
Yeah, it's a fine line, isn't it, between, I guess, when you're in that position of being honest, an honest appraisal of your team, but also not wanting to deflate confidence. But sometimes, I mean, judging by what some of the journals have said after what he said in that press conference as well, I think many of them were left scratching their head, really. I mean, a couple of specifics. I mean, it seems this really tentative style that he's got. I mean, the wing backs, are they a bit of a problem? And the fact that they stay really deep, and there just doesn't seem that any sense of adventure in the play, does there?
Well, when obviously we've played back five under Carlos, we've played back five under previous managers, and the fullbacks, although they may have been deep, at least when the team was attacking, they actually sprinted forward and tried to have some semblance of attacking movement in the move that we were trying to put together. But because our play is so slow, the attackers the fullbacks don't get chance to make that quick movement, and when they do, there's no point to it, because say we'll take an example. The ball comes to Tom Lees, and then it'll be moved out to Ruffles. But Ruffles, even though Ruffles might have already made that run, he's already been blocked off, because the play earlier on, when it's come from the goalkeeper, has been far too slow. So the opposition's been able to block that path off. And then we end up playing into midfield, and then it eventually goes back all the way to the goalkeeper, who hoofs it upfield. And then the chaos starts again. So there's no method to his style. I think Carlos, you got his style. Maybe not at the beginning, but he didn't really have the players at the beginning. You could argue he didn't really have the players at the end, but he was. To be fair to him, he was that good of a coach that he could get even mediocre players playing to his style of football. Wagner did the same when we had David Wagner. He came in, he had a style of play. Within 3 games, you knew what our style of play was. It was 4-2-3-1, and that's how we played. Under Fotheringham, it's like 5 at the back, two or three, well, maybe a 2 or a 3 in midfield, and then a 3 up front. But the wing play isn't creative. The forwards, unfortunately, in Rhodes and Ward, whilst very okay players, they're not the quickest. So you can't play with any fluidity or movement. And then the midfield, you've got David Kasum, I think is a decent player. Hoggy, we know what Hoggy can do. But there's nobody in that midfield that's like an O'Brien that's driving the team forward. That's what happened last year. O'Brien drove that team into the ground. He drove it forward and made us go on the attack. Even if the odds were against us in that moment of play, he still tried to get us forward. We haven't got anybody like that. No, nobody.
No. And it makes for pretty sorry reading Huddersfield's January record. Looking at it, played 24 league games in the month of January since 2008 and only just won 2 of them. What's going on with January, mate?
January is just a bad month. It's a bit of a blue month. I mean, if you looked outside recently, it's not right now, is it? So I don't know. It's a bit of an odd stat. It's like that Harry Kane thing with was it August where he'd not scored in August for like 14 years or whatever as a professional, something like that. Some clubs just have it. I think it's a bad record, is that? But the problem is with this January provided the fixtures that we needed to win to get ourselves out of the mess that we're in. We've got some results, but for the majority of the month, it's been a poor month again.
Yeah. Transfer window closed, and a couple of transfers I want to quickly get your take on. Tomáš Vašík came in, Czech Republic goalkeeper from Olympiacos, and also John Russell leaving. As well, I know that Lee Bromby has mentioned that he's fallen well below the standards as well. What's your kind of take on those 2 situations there?
Yeah, well, Vašík is a very good goalkeeper. Obviously, Lee Nichols has been injured, shoulder injury. It looks like it's going to be he's out till the rest of the season basically, which I think he'll then have more of a recovery sort of operation maybe in the summer. I know he's had an operation already, so hopefully he'll be back by next summer. But we needed an experienced keeper to come in. Balakovic had not done too bad. I personally feel he's been built up over the last couple of weeks, saying how good he's been, this, that, and other, and then suddenly we've gone and signed 2 goalkeepers. Vašík, I agree, we needed to bring in. He will slot now into number 1. You could have had Balakovic at number 2. I've recently done an interview with Matt Glenham for the Hub. Obviously a former Huddersfield Town goalkeeper. He has a different opinion. He thinks the goalkeepers that we've brought in have been of a good quality and standard and needed. Even the loan lad from Nottingham Forest. I think I call him Adam Smith, but his name's Jordan Smith, I think. I forget. He was like, I looked at it and I was like, I don't really understand why we signed him, but obviously I'm not an ex-professional goalkeeper, am I? So it would have been nice to have another midfielder come in. I think we're a bit short in that area, and of course a left back. If you are of the opinion that Josh Ruffles really isn't up to scratch, so. Yeah, the transfer window has been okay. We brought some experienced players, as we've said before. John Russell going out, didn't add anything this season. We've not really missed him, in my opinion, because we play slower than a barge going down a canal anyway, and he would have just made it twice as slow. But we wouldn't have moved. So he's gone to Barnsley. I'm sure he'll really quicken Barnsley's play up at Oakwell. They'll be really happy with his signing. I love it how you read Twitter, right, and there's so many of these people, right, that go, what a signing. Unbelievable signing for Barnsley Football Club. Okay, then, right. He was good last season. And the reason he was good was because he had Lewis O'Brien running next to him doing all the work. Let's not kid ourselves, right? If he were any sort of a semblance of good, he wouldn't be at Huddersfield Town Football Club for a start off, would he? So, so that's what I think about that. Best of luck to him at Barnsley, but he's not going to be a miss for us. Didn't want to be here, obviously. Fair enough. You don't want to be here. Bye-bye, ta-ta, and enjoy your rest of your life, really. And I think that Sober Thomas sort of goes into that camp. I know we talked about it last week, reflecting more on his comments, really. I think it's a poor do his comments, as we touched on last week. So I'm sort of semi-happy. I'm semi-happy with it with the transfer window. I think we've done some nice business. Knockout coming in. Hungbo looks a decent player. But I still think we could have done more.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, up next, it's QPR on Saturday, then you've got the game against Blackpool on Tuesday. What needs to happen in those games if it doesn't go well? I mean, Fotheringham going forward. I mean, what does the fan base think? Are they kind of still kind of supportive, or is it kind of he needs to go, or where do you think they're at?
Well, let's put some clarity on the situation, shall we?
Please do.
95% of the fan base, I would guess, from looking at it, do not want Mark Fotheringham to go into the Blackpool game. I think they're quite, I wouldn't say happy, contented to give him one last chance against QPR, but QPR are on a terrible run of form. I mean, they've slumped down the table so much over the sort of last 6-7 week period. So we need to be getting something against QPR. Blackpool is a must. I mean, they're both must wins really, but then they're all must wins until the end of the year. But Blackpool and QPR, yeah, Wigan and then Stoke. Of these 4 games, we need to be getting 8 points. Lose against QPR and losing a performance where we don't show anything. Literally, I mean, he's got no excuses now. He's got players back from injury, apart from Nichols. He's got new signings in the building to give the squad a lift. He's got all his coaching staff that he wanted in. So, and he's had enough time with the squad now. He knows the club, he knows the area, he knows the fan base, he knows everything that he needs to know well enough. Right, it's now crunch time. You're either good enough or you're not good enough. And for me, if the performance is bad, say if we go and lose 3-0, he's gone after the game. We have not got time to be messing about anymore. You need to get somebody in who it can assemble a plan, has a style of play, and can get us out of the mess that we're in. And stop having these sort of experiments that go on where, you know, we give managers with no experience a chance because, you know, people will point to Carrick at Borough, but Carrick had worked in a world-class assistant coaching setup at Man United. You know, Mark Fotheringham's come from Germany, and there's people that's gone to Union Berlin, Hertha Berlin, sorry, where he was an assistant coach, and nobody knows his name. So, you know,
yeah, no,
it's just infuriating because we have the squad to stay. If you put our squad next to Blackpool's squad, our squad stays in this division. But
is there any appetite? Is there any appetite from the board to actually make a change, do you think?
No, because Lee Bromby, when Danny Schofield was sacked, Lee Bromby came on the radio and said, I must get this decision right. This decision is vital that I get correct, and my sort of head, as it were, will be on this decision. You know, it will be basically I'm taking charge of it. Well, from what I've seen and can, you know, in my opinion, he hasn't got it right. But whenever Bromby's in his position, Fotheringham will be in his position because he's not going to admit he's got a decision wrong, is he? So, you know, he could do it with Schofield, but I don't think he'll do it with Fotheringham. I think he'll be here till end of the season. We ain't got any money. What are we going to pay him off with? Packet of Walker's crisps and a cream bun.
Yeah. Well, it gets that point as well. I mean, you know, you don't want to burn through those games in hand, do you? You know, you really don't want to lose those games in hand. I mean, you've won that, you've messed up there, but you really, I mean, looking at it, it's incredibly tight. But you know, if you don't make a difference with those games in hand, it's a huge opportunity lost, really.
Yeah, if it were me, like I say, if we don't come up with some performance against QPR and get the points that we need, I would, you know, say to Fotheringham, thanks for giving it a go and showing passion and all the rest of it, which is fair enough. You know, he's a family man, and you know, can have a, you know, he's given his passion and probably everything to the job. But I'd be saying you're just not cutting it. We for the sale of this football club to go through, we have to stay in this. We can't mess about anymore. we have to stay in this division, because if we go down, the club's harder to sell. We haven't, you know, it's going to be so difficult to get back up to this level now because of the clubs that are down there. You've got to stay in this division. We have to stay in this division. It's as simple as that. Simple as that.
Well, if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Please subscribe to the channel for more Huddersfield Town content. Steve, thank you very much for your clarity.
Oh, no worries. I'm sure that my clarity will give fans hope and you know, opinions on what's going forward. Let's just have some clarity on the pitch at the weekend.
Indeed. Steve, thanks for joining us, mate.
No worries, mate. Cheers.